Hello and welcome to the video. Today we have a short story titled The Hanged Men Gang Part 1. I hope you enjoy. The wheels of the wagon slid into a puddle, jerking the occupants around roughly. "Hey, easy on the reins there. I nearly spilt my drink," Balanos hiccuped as he put away his wineskin. Balanos, along with the 4 others who had been gathered by the benefactor and a great dog, were trundling along a sodden path heading northeast. The wagon was pulled by 2 horses and had a newly furbished canvas high cover to protect the occupants from the lightly falling rain, which had been drizzling all day. "I'm a-going as carefully as I can, old man. If you want to come up here and drive, be my guest," Taran replied from the driver's seat. "The track here is bloody narrow and pockmarked by what looks like the passage of the entire Rundel army." "How much further is it?" Balanos said, swaying with the movement of the vehicle. "Are you already in your cups?" Nessa shouted, shooting Balanos a severe look from across the wagon. "We've been on the road for at least a day. Where do you keep getting wine from?" "A man never kisses and tells, plant lady." "I told you to stop calling me that," Nessa said venomously. A small voice came from the other side of the wagon as Princess Thalia piped up. "Actually, I would also like to know how much further it is." With a sigh like steam from a kettle, Nessa opened her mouth but was interrupted by Taran. "Like I told y'all yesterday, once we're in sight of Foyle Forest, it should be another 3 days or so. When we come to the fork in the road just before the forest, we'll head north and skirt around it. Then we'll be spitting distance from the town." Artair groaned. "Oh, how do we know this gang is even in Frostvale anyway? Because some mysterious man told us so. I don't know how you were all so easily swayed." He had been lying down with his head hanging over the back of the wagon, but he lifted it as he said this. Nessa thought it odd that a citizen of Arundel would react so poorly to this mode of travel, considering it hadn't fazed her at all. "It's quite simple, my boy." A loud belch interrupted Balanos before he continued. "There really wasn't any other option, now was there? I don't know about you, but I think the alternative seemed somewhat, final." "Listen, it doesn't really matter," Nessa said, looking down her nose at the queasy young man who was still prone on the floor of the wagon. "The benefactor, whoever he may be, laid it out plainly. We don't have to trust him or where he got his information. As long as we do what he has asked, then we all get a shot at something more important." Nessa patted Artair on the back awkwardly, and he turned to face her. "Are you really so kind-hearted? You actually believe this Shadow Man will bring about some fairy tale ending for this dung heap of a kingdom?" She paused, contemplating the right way to express herself. "No, I don't." She paused again. "I do, however, believe that if we complete these little tasks for him, he will eventually get us within arm's reach of that monstrous king." "You know I'm right here," Thalia said. "He is my father after all, and that is exactly why you shouldn't be here." Nessa snapped. At these sharp words, the giant dog that was lying amongst their feet lifted its head and snarled. Thalia patted the dog gently on the head, and without a word, the animal seemed to calm down. "First we have to babysit you and your pooch. Then we have to watch what we say so we don't hurt your feelings. Out of fear this hound will eat us. Or worse, you'll have us executed." Thalia looked down at her lap and wrung her hands together. "Don't blame the child. She's as buggered as the rest of us. Probably even more so," Balanos said, drawing a pointed look from Nessa. He raised his hands in surrender and turned toward Taran, who had twisted in his seat to give the 4 travellers a grim look. "Look, all of you shut up and listen to me. We're gonna get to this town. We're gonna capture or kill the brutes that call themselves the Hanged Men." He paused for a heartbeat before continuing the lecture. "Then we're gonna do the next job he offers us, and then the next. When all is said and done, we're gonna overthrow the king and that bastard High Channeler, and for better or worse, Her Royal Highness here is going to take the throne. It's simple, straightforward. We don't need to like one another or trust anyone. We just need to get the job done so we can all go our separate ways. Taryn bellowed over the pitter-patter of the rain. And who exactly are you to give us orders? Nessa said. The group all turned back toward the driver. Just a simple merc, and they ain't orders. You're as free as I am to leave. But remember, the King's men are after us. How long will it be before the protection of the benefactor runs out? They will catch you, or worse. The High Channeler himself will be on you, Taryn replied, as he turned back to watch the road. I still don't get how you can just blindly follow that man. He could be sending us right into a trap for all we know, Artair said, before rolling into a sitting position and pulling his knees to his chest. If he wanted to do that, why did he not when he had us all trapped in his castle? Why give us horses and an expensive wagon? Why give us coin to spend on our trip? Thalia muttered as she lifted her head to look at them all. Think about this logically and it makes sense. Regardless, what Taryn and Balanos have said is correct. We don't have any other options. And I suppose it's convenient for you. You'll just so happen to be sitting on a throne at the end of all this, Nessa said, and again Thalia looked back at her lap. I thought so, Nessa sneered. It wasn't the first time the Druidess had needed to put her little Royal Highness in her place since meeting the heiress. Look, we all benefit from this little cabal. Can't we just leave it at that? Besides, we're inside of the forest now, Taryn shouted as he pulled on the reins, bringing them to a stop. The group shuffled forward to peer through the canvas flaps. The normal trees had begun to thin out around here, giving way to the oddly translucent light green trees of Foyle Forest. I'll pull us off the road just up ahead where the fork is. It's getting late, and with this downpour, it'll be a bastard to get a fire lit. Even if you could, I wouldn't. This close to the forest, one should never light fires. You never know who might be watching, Nessa replied, as the wagon started to roll slowly onwards. Is it upsetting to be this close to that infernal forest again? Balanos asked. You know nothing, you foolish drunk, Nessa snapped, but she held back bitter tears as she looked out at the forest. She didn't just look at it, but into it. She could see all the way back to her home, to where someone else was in charge now. She knew that one day she would return there, to her home. If an alliance truly could be made between Arundel and Foyle, if she could be the one to strike it, then maybe they would grant her asylum. I'm sorry you were banished from your home, Thalia said quietly, breaking Nessa from her thoughts. Snapping her head around, she glared at Thalia once again, which had the desired effect as Thalia's eyes dropped back to her lap. After pulling the wagon over, Taryn unhitched the horses and tied them to a nearby tree where there was a patch of grass. Fine, don't listen to me then, Nessa called as she climbed out of the wagon. Respectfully, I don't think anyone would even blink at the sight of a few travellers on the side of the road, Taryn replied. Nessa only scowled as she stalked away from the wagon. Taryn unloaded most of the group's gear and began to set up his tent. He looked up in time to see Balanos waddle over to a tree trunk and wrap himself in a canvas tent. The old ranger muttered something about waking him when food was ready, then promptly passed out, snoring loudly. Artair had sat himself down, leaning against one of the wagon wheels with his cloak held tightly about himself. Taryn could see him trying not to shiver in the cold and wet. Thalia didn't even leave the wagon. She just hung her legs over the back of the wooden platform to keep them out of the rain as much as possible. Her massive dog laid his head on her lap and she pulled out a book. It would be dark soon, Taryn thought, so she wouldn't have too much time to read. Besides, what was the point of all those books she had brought? Chuckling to himself, he set up his tent efficiently and precisely, then grabbed the cooking gear from the back of the wagon. Before setting it up, he looked over as Nessa waved her hands and vines sprouted out of the ground, creating a crude cone shape into which she disappeared without a word. Bugger this, I'm cold and hungry, he said to anyone who was listening. Taryn strung up an extra canvas tarp that gave him just enough room to set a small fire for the cauldron. Then he stood back. Now to find some dry wood, he said, more to himself this time. You aren't gonna find anything dry in this boggy wood, Artair grumbled. Ah, ye have little faith. I've spent more nights outside than I have inside, lad. There is always something dry if you look hard enough. And with that, he tramped off into the woods, being sure to pick a direction that led him away from Foyle Forest. A few minutes later, he returned with a bundle of dry kindling and proceeded to spark a flint. Kneeling, he breathed a fledgling life into the fire. Taran looked up to see Artair still shivering in the rain. Artair, come here. Warm yourself and try and dry off, he said, gesturing toward the fire. I'll have a proper fire going here in a minute, and we'll soon have some grub. Artair raised his head and squinted at Taran through the rain. Don't worry about me, I'm fine in the wet. I might not have spent as much time outside as you, but I ain't weak. It's got nothing to do with being weak, the mercenary said. It's about being warm and drying off, that's all. The young man looked about as if to see if anyone else was looking, before he moved under the tarp, warming his hands in front of the glowing flames. How old are you, kid? Taran asked as he added kindling to the fire. 17, why? Just wondering, that's all. Pausing, Taran looked into the fire. Listen, a quick tip, if you're gonna light a fire in the rain, you only need a few good dry twigs. The rest you can warm right by the fire till they're ready to go. Poking a stick in the fire, he made his point, as steam started billowing out of the logs piled at the edges of the fire. Now, go fetch us the food barrel and bring that snotty princess back with you. As Artair trudged back to the wagon, Taran went back to setting up tents. By the time the two youngest members of the group had reached the campfire, dog in tow, the last two tents were complete. Taran set the cauldron down and bent the tarp's corner toward it. The vessel quickly filled with the collected rainwater. How are you doing, your royal highness? He asked. The dog shook droplets of rain out of its coat as the pair grew close to the warmth. I'm fine, and please don't call me that. By all means, princess, Taran replied. That either. Just call me Thalia. I guess we should call you that while we can. Someday soon we may not be able to. Thalia. I still don't believe it. One day I'm in the palace, the next I'm squatting under a tarp in the middle of God's nowhere with a drunk. Thalia jabbed a thumb towards Balanos. A moody druidess, a thief and a mercenary. It's like the start of a bad joke. She shook her head as she stared into the flames. Must be tough, being away from your palace, Artair muttered sarcastically. You know it actually is, Thalia said matter-of-factly. I've never been outside the palace walls before now, and although you have all treated me like a child or a burden, I have been gathering information about all of you. Is that so? Taran said, rolling his eyes. Yes, it is. For instance, you. She pointed right at him. You have a mean exterior, and yet you are cooking us dinner. Why? Before he could answer, she continued. Because you have spent your entire life as part of a team, a unit. So even though you don't know us, you have been trying to take care of us. Again, Taran tried to speak, but Thalia kept going, pointing now at Artair. And you were so cautious of everyone and everything that even obvious things seemed to slip by you. This time, both of them let her continue without trying to interrupt. She gestured toward Balanos again. And him? He is so weary of conflict that every time something remotely inconvenient or challenging happens, he drinks himself silly. He has been alone with the nightmares in his head for so long that he feels like he belongs there. Taran thought this was a bit much. None of them knew each other's stories. A more mature person would refrain from casting such ill-informed judgments. Taking a breath, she carried on, and looked sideways at the vines that had encircled the druidess. As for her, she is so bitter and cold because of what has happened to her that she can't put it aside even for a second to think. Sensing a pause, Taran ventured to speak. Well, I have to tell you, anyone could have picked up on all that. I mean, even I did, and I don't read people too well. Don't act like you know us, princess. Ah, but those are the only observations I've made today. You have no idea what I've been able to glean from your minds. Both of the men seemed taken aback by this statement. Thalia chuckled. I'm joking, somewhat. She smiled at them both, but Artair shuffled a little closer to Taran. Eventually, Taran broke the silence with a croaky laugh. He chopped up a few potatoes and slivers of dried meat and added them to the pot. Then he set it on the hook over the fire. "Ha ha, very funny. But the reason we have all been treating you like we have is pretty obvious. We're on our way to deal with one of the most violent gangs in the area." Taran stirred the pot as he continued. "My whole company was sent after them, by your father no less, and we were 50 battle-hardened men. We were obviously duped, but this gang isn't a joke." He clanged the wooden spoon against the rim of the pot and pointed it at the princess. "And you just admitted to us that you have never been outside the palace walls. How else were we supposed to treat you?" "With a little more respect, I should think. I may be young and, I'll admit, lacking experience in dealing with ruffians, but I have my own skills to offer. And get that spoon out of my face." He obeyed and continued stirring the food. Thalia gestured to Taran and then Artair. "You have your muscles and your big sword, and I assume you can do something sneaky. He, I imagine," Thalia pointed at Balanos, "when he isn't passed out, is a fantastic shot with a bow. And I'm a powerful druidess." Nessa's voice cut in out of nowhere. Startled, the princess continued. "Oh, you can hear us, can you? Well, from what the benefactor said, we all have our part to play, right? Some more than others." Nessa's voice came again, muffled by the vine walls of her shelter. Taran thought the stuck-up druidess should take some of her own medicine and pipe down. "Well, if what you say about this gang is true," Thalia said as she looked at Taran, "then we all need to pitch in and help bring them to justice." "That's the spirit, Mrs. Doghaver," Balanos blurted out, now having risen to a sitting position. "Is the chow ready yet?" The next 3 days went on just as the first had. Taran and Nessa arguing, Artair retching over the end of the wagon, and Balanos turning everything he could into a joke. Thalia knew these people had all suffered at the hands of her father, and recently. She probably wasn't going to be anyone's friend anytime soon, so she tried to keep out of their business as best as she could. She still couldn't believe her father would let the High Channeler poison him so severely that people actually wanted to kill him. She had never read or heard anything around the palace that would indicate misdoings, let alone villainous acts, on her father's part, but she supposed that would have been done on purpose. The benefactor's plan seemed legitimate, at least to her. They would help the common people deal with some plight, such as the Hanged Men gang, then flaunt the fact that the king was unfit to protect them and that he should abdicate the throne. Do this enough times, and when it came time to kill or remove the High Channeler, no one would oppose the change in monarch. It seemed simple enough, but what did the benefactor get out of it? He was still such a mystery, and Artair seemed to be the only person questioning his motives. Yet, Thalia couldn't deny that the benefactor had not shown them any logical reason to doubt him. The wagon stopped abruptly, waking Thalia from her daydream. "Why have we stopped?" she asked. "Pee break," Taran shouted, and they all disembarked the wagon. "Isn't it a bit odd that we haven't seen anyone on the road yet?" Thalia asked, looking up and down the road. "Nah, most sensible people steer clear of this forest. Am I right, Nessa?" Balanos asked. Nessa ignored him and stalked off for more privacy. With a chuckle, Balanos and Taran walked over to the closest group of trees. Artair rolled out of the wagon and lay on his back on the grass, eyes closed. Thalia peered down at him. "Why are you getting so sick? It's only a slow-moving wagon. You should try riding a horse at gallop," Thalia said, lowering herself from the wagon before sitting down next to him. Luckily, the rain had ceased a day ago, and the sun had been shining brightly all morning. "I've never ridden a horse or wagon in my life," the boy replied. "Not all of us are princesses, you know." "I didn't mean it like that. I was just curious." Nessa came over to look down at both of them. "Listen, we are apparently only a few hours' ride from Frostvale. When we get there, you especially, Princess, will need to have your wits about you. You can't rely on anyone here to help you if you get yourself into trouble. We all have our own backs to consider. You got that?" "Yes," she said, like a girl answering a tutor. "You gotta lighten up on the kid," Taran said, walking over to them. "Will you stop giving me orders?" Nessa snarled as she stomped over to Taran. His height wouldn't permit her to look him in the face, so she just seethed up at him. Thalia giggled under her breath at the sight. Nessa wheeled around to face the girl again and pointed at her chest. You need to keep it in your minds that we were all here on our own, so don't expect help from me and I won't from you. Well, on that cheery note, shall we be on our way? Did I hear you say the town is only a few hours' ride? Balanos asked, leaning against the wagon with his arms folded. Begrudgingly, the group got back into the wagon, and with a gentle thwack of the reins, they were off. To be continued. That was The Hanged Men Gang Part 1. It is the first tale in our second season. There will be 10 episodes this season, so please consider subscribing so you don't miss out. Or leave a like or comment any feedback you may have. This was a Tello Tale. Thanks for watching.